Hello YouTube, it's Rom from Ramen Noodles TCG. I just got back from the Philly Regionals. I played Virtual World. I didn't top, but I got closer to topping than I did ever before at this Philly Regionals. I went X4, but I played all 10 rounds, 6 wins, 4 losses. And yeah, the deck felt really good. My matchups were, I played against two lab, 2 cash, and then 1 each of Fire King, Vanquish Soul, Trap Tricks, Marincess, Unchained, and Rescue Ace. My losses were to Fire King, Rescue Ace, Lab, and Cash. And yeah, overall it was a pretty good day. I've been testing this deck like crazy for the past month, and I can't wait to show you the results of all my testing. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, starting off, we have 3 Lulu, 3 Gigi, 3 Lily, 3 Lao Lao, 2 Nyan Nyan, and no Tutu. I was playing Tutu for a bit. I cut her. The lines were super weird. She's fine, but she doesn't fit super well into the combos that I'm trying to play with this sort of extra deck. So I decided to cut her for something else. I frequently cited out the 3rd Lao Lao going 2nd. And yeah, that's, standard Virtual World. Playing 3 Kowloon, 3 Qinglong, 2 Chuche, 1 Zhuanwu. I actually got really close to resolving the 4th effect of Kowloon against the Vanquish Soul player. That was really cool. The Zhuanwu battle position changing came up once or twice today, also against the Vanquish Soul player. When you get shifted, you have to do some jank, but it's not as awful as it seems. There's some really cool interactions that I used today. The traps, the graveyard effect of Zhuanwu and Chuche is main phase only, but you can chain it to stuff because they're traps. So these guys banish for cost. So when you're going 2nd and you have Kowloon to set Chuche, you have something like a Qinglong, for example. Like if you have Kowloon Qinglong plus names, you can break boards really well with this. So you can Kowloon set Chuche, Qinglong banish Kowloon. So now you have 1 name, you get a negate, and you can activate a Virtual World name. You target the Qinglong, you send a Chuche, and if they try to interrupt you, you can chain the Chuche in graveyard. So now you have 2 banished Virtual Worlds. Then you can chain the Chuche as Chain Link 3, which is really, really nice. That interaction comes up a ton. I just started doing that, and it came up a lot today. It was really nice. I'm more comfortable siding out Zhuanwu now. I'm really, really starting to appreciate siding out Zhuanwu. Obviously, you only do it going 2nd, but yeah. Still fairly standard for VW. 3 Italy, 3 Desires, 2 Foolish Burial Goods. So I haven't played this card in over a year, but ever since Maze of Millennia dropped, we have transaction rollback now. So there's extra incentive to play this card. Now, obviously, transaction rollback and whatever stupid trap you want to send, I'm playing Saga, conflicts with Desires because you don't want to banish your pieces. I'm siding them. So there's a lot of theory behind that, but I'll talk about that a little later. Desires was decent for me today. I sided it out to go to the rollback stuff, and I bricked it a couple times, but I didn't brick that much. Yeah, this felt pretty good as far as consistency spells. Goods was solid. I liked it. This is what I cut the 2/2 for. I cut the 2/2 for 1 goods, and then I added a second goods to go up to 41 cards. I could have played Prosperity, but I wanted a higher ceiling. The draw 2 is just so good. You want to draw 2 because then you have more stuff to discard. But we'll talk about that more when we get to the extra deck. I am playing Fenrir. Fenrir is so good in this deck. I was testing Terratop in this slot instead. Like, I was playing 2 Terratop, 1 Takatom board, and a bunch of rank 3s in the extra, but nothing can replace Fenrir. Fenrir is amazing in this build of Virtual World. Obviously, if you don't have Fenrir, it's not the end of the world, but you really want to be playing Fenrir in this deck. I side this out against Rescue Ace because I have something in the side that slots really nicely in here. Against Rescue Ace, against Unchained, I keep 2 in against Unchained. I'll explain that later. And I side this out against Lab going second because I have a bunch of Lab hate in the side. I really got kind of scared of Lab just because transaction rollback and, you know, the deck is so good. So yeah, I prepped a lot for Lab. So yeah, you'll see that with the non-engine. So for the hand traps, I'm playing 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and the 1 Called. Well, the Called By's not a hand trap, but it's the 41st card. So Ash is really generic. Droll is really good this format. So I wanted high impact cards. I was originally testing Bell in this slot because I was scared of Lab, but it felt really low impact against everything else. So I just decided to side the Bells instead. Ash felt decently impactful. Obviously, it's really good against Lab. It's really good against Branded, which I never played against. But it's also pretty solid against Fire King, at least pre-Phantom Nightmare. If you Ash the island, sometimes it just ends their turn, which is really funny. So yeah, those were hand trap ratios. These were really good today. I really liked these. Droll was really nice against Cash. Yeah. I didn't draw it against Vanquish Soul. I wish I drolled Vanquish Soul. I feel like I drew Droll when I didn't need it, but it didn't matter. Like, I drew Droll against Marincess, I drew Droll against Unchained, I drew Droll against Lab, but, like, Droll is so good. It was good, I promise. And the 1 Called By, you know, hand trap hate. We don't lose super hard to Droll. There's a bunch of lines you can do to play around Droll. But it beats Shifter, it beats Lancia. Thankfully, I didn't get Lancia today. I was terrified of Lancia, but obviously no one plays Lancia right now. But, you know, if you get Lancia, you're kind of screwed. But yeah, I mean, just negating rogue hand traps is always nice. Speaking of Lab hate, let me go to the side. So I have 3 Bell, 3 Denko Sekka, and 3 Evenly Matched for Lab hate. So Denko Sekka and Evenly also double as Rescue Ace hate. Denko Sekka is especially good against Rescue Ace because Lab sometimes activates the back row like in your draw phase or standby phase, so they have like stuff on board. But Rescue Ace, obviously, they don't activate their back row until you... They have less chainables, is what I mean. Or like they're not combo pieces, they're actual back row. Denko Sekka did not come up at all. I just never drew the card. I just never drew it. I cited it in, I didn't draw it, unfortunately. But it's good in theory. I don't know if I'll keep playing this, but... I just got this card like a week ago, so I haven't tested it much at locals. It hasn't come up yet, but maybe it will. It's good in theory. Bell was pretty solid in the side. I think I only used it once or twice, but it's a good card. Bell's really good this format. If you're playing a deck that can play more hand traps, you probably should be on Bell, but I don't have that many spaces for hand traps, so It's in the side. It was fine. Evenly was kind of crazy today. It was good against, it's good against Lab. This went crazy in the cash matchup. Yeah, Evenly is really good this format. It's solid against Fire King. Yeah. I am playing 2 copies of Fantasme, 1 Triple Tactics Talent, and Transaction Rollback and Saga. So I'll talk about the rollback stuff in a moment. So Fantasme, I was really scared of Unchained because although Unchained got hit on the ban list, the deck seems pretty playable. And Unchained is one of Virtual World's worst matchups because of Caesar. Now, Caesar just kind of negates all your stuff. So the Kowloon effect to summon 4 means you can Caesar it. Because it's all one effect. So they can just kind of hammer the Caesar. And it trades for 2 cards in your hand automatically. And they have so much removal, and yeah, it's a really bad matchup, so I need Fantasme. So this is the one I go 2 Fantasme, 2 Fenrir in against Unchained. And it's also good against Rescue Ace, because they make SP, and then you can drop Fantasme. And it trades for their back row a lot of the time, and it's really nice. It helps you dig for other stuff as well. Fix your hand, you know. Virtual World needs your hand fixed. I didn't draw it today, but this card is crazy, I promise. I couldn't find space for a third one. I was gonna cut one of these. Out of the other side deck cards I'm playing 3 of, Fantasme seemed like the most cuttable. The 1 talent is for sighting patterns. So in order to slot in the rollback stuff, which again I'll get to, you need to take out 3 desires. Well, I took out 3 desires. Against Cash, I actually kept them in, and it was fine. I didn't banish my pieces, but I felt a little lucky about that one. But yeah, my theory was to sight out 3 desires. I can put in a talent somewhere. Talent also slots really nicely in for the Called by the Grave when going second. Yeah, this is good for sighting patterns. I think I resolved this maybe once. This came up a lot at locals, but it didn't really come up today. But it's a good card. It works pretty well in this deck. Now on to the meat and potatoes. The transaction rollback and the saga. Now, if you aren't unfamiliar with rollback, you can banish it from the graveyard to pay half your life points to copy the effect of a normal trap in your graveyard. Ghost Meets Girl, a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui saga, or just saga for short, tributes a Mayakashi or Shiranui Synchro, and then locks both players from special summoning monsters, except from the graveyard, until the end of the turn. Now, rollback doesn't make you pay the cost, so you just roll back, copy the effect of Saga, and then your opponent cannot special summon. It's really easy to set this up with Beatrice. The reason I'm citing this is because this does not do anything to Labyrinth. And I expected a lot of Lab today. There's a lot of decks that it doesn't beat. It beats most things, but not everything. And I didn't want to play the bricks in the main because I was afraid of losing dice rolls. Virtual World already has enough bricks, and I didn't want to play more. I lost 5 die rolls today, so I won half my die rolls, which is not bad. I resolved this like 3 or 4 times today. It was basically always just an instant win. When I resolved it, it was great. Let's talk about the extra deck. So for the Synchros, I'm playing Shen Shen, Charge Warrior, Vermilion, Coral Dragon, Malong, and Barone. Now, these 3 are great. Never cutting them. There was a lot of Vermilion Dragon Mech combos were insane today. Like, I went Vermilion pop itself so many times, And, like, my opponents were always amazed by, like, the sick plays I was able to do with this card. Yeah, it was awesome. Malong and Barone are really good. So when I'm doing the rollback combo with Beatrice, I want to be protected from hand traps. So I played Malong to make itself a 7, and then Barone. These lines aren't amazing because you need 3 level 3s, 2 of which being non-tuners. It's not insanely difficult to achieve in this deck, but using up a lot of your level 3 material super early on in the combo can be kind of weird, depending on what you're trying to end on. So it doesn't come up, it's not supernatural to do in every hand, but it's pretty easy to make. Coral Dragon, man, Coral Dragon. So I didn't use it for the pop, I wanted it for the draw. So there was a couple flex slots in the extra deck. I wanted to cut one of these tuner synchros. I ended up cutting neither of them. That was a pretty big mistake. I only summoned Coral Dragon once, and it was a game I was already winning. It was the final round against Cash. I summoned this. There were some hands... like, I was doing test hands. This came up a bunch in test hands. And that's because of the card I'm about to talk about. So I'm not playing Zulkin. I'm not playing Crystal Wing. So Coral Dragon was kind of weird without those guys, but instead I am opting for the much sturdier Muddy Mud Dragon into Dragoon. Now Dragoon is really good against Lab. Obviously Typhon outs Dragoon, but you have Chuche to pop whatever they make Typhon with. So we'll just pop the Typhon. So the idea behind this was, you know, I can Muddy Mud Dragon into Dragoon, and it's very sturdy. So for dragons, Coral Dragon is the ideal dragon synchro for that, because it draws me a card. This came up a bunch in test hands where I would set up, like, Shen Chuche 3 negates or something. Shen Chuche 2 to 3 negates, and it was, like, really crazy in test hands. But in actual games, I wanted to play around hand traps, so I never did those lines because they always overextended to Nibiru. So yeah, the Coral Dragon never came up. For the Dragoon package, I am playing... Gaia Dragon. So the idea behind Gaia Dragon is you can overlay on top of a rank 6 to make a dragon material. Now, speaking of rank 6s, I got a lot of them. So I'm playing the M7, Beatrice, Lars, and Wallow. M7 is an insane combo piece. A lot of times when you get drolled, the way to play around it is you can dump extra virtual world names to your graveyard and then add them back to your hand with M7 to keep extending. So that's where a lot of your Dragoon lines come in. So you can M7 back something like a GG, and then summon your GG, make Muddy Mud Dragon, and then slap Gaia Dragon on top, and then fuse for Dragoon. So that's the idea with that. M7's good removal. It's good for extension. It's insane. Yeah, you know, it's a Virtual World staple for a reason. I see Virtual World players cutting this card, and I get it, but, like, especially if you're playing a build like this, you need M7. It's so good. So good. Beatrice, obviously, she's the star of the show with Transaction Rollback. Yeah, this card is totally going to get banned. I'm going to miss you, Beatrice. I love you. Don't ever leave me. Lars and Wallow were crazy today. Lars is a really solid negate. It's good into a lot of things that Shen is not, which I like. You can make a super poly-proof board by setting up Shen, Lars, and Dragoon. That was, like, the main thing I was theory crafting. So Barone Shen loses to super poly, but if you make Barone with Lars or Dragoon, it does not lose to super poly, which is really nice. Well, there's, like, one super poly target. I'll put it up on the screen that beats that, but nobody plays it. We're fine. And Lastly, I am playing the Fortune Tune and Zeus. No Typhon. I cut Typhon to put Wallow in. Oh wait, hold on. I have something more to say about Wallow. So Wallow was my 15th addition to the extra deck. I could not decide whether or not to play Wallow or Fanfan. Wallow's really good against Lab. It's also really good for OTKs. It's like a nice middle ground between like Fanfan and Utopia Beyond. But Wallow is better against Lab, but Fanfan is better against Fire King. Because the Fanfan Banish is really, really good. Actually, I have a copy of Fanfan right here. So yeah, you can Fanfan banish stuff from the field and the graveyard, which is insane. Banishing Sacred G is... banishing like the Sacred G and the island kind of just wins you the game. And if your opponent tries to out your Fanfan, it floats, so you just make another Xyz monster. Yeah, I didn't end up playing Fanfan. I played Wallow over it, and I think Wallow was the correct choice. This came in clutch a lot of times. This almost won me the game against Fire King. Man, that was so close. That was such a close match. I mean, yeah. So it was either these two, one of these, or Typhon. So I cut Typhon. That was such a huge mistake. It came up so often. I wish I had it. I'm putting it back in, like, right after I finish filming this. That card is so good in this deck. Especially, I had prepped for the Branded matchup. Typhon is really good against Branded, but, like, I thought, oh, I'm not going to see Branded. I didn't see any Branded, but it came up in a lot of situations. Like, my opponents are dropping Typhon on me, but I can Typhon them back. So you can, like, Typhon to counter your opponent's Typhon. And, like, in these grindy game states, the simplified game states where Virtual World is supposed to excel and win games, I was coming up ever so slightly short sometimes, and Typhon, I feel, could have closed that gap for me.
Missed Crystal Wing a little bit because not having it makes me more vulnerable to Nibiru. But I didn't expect many people to be running Nibiru at the regional because everyone is preparing for Labyrinth, Rescue Ace, and Fire King. I didn't miss rollback in the main that much because I liked having the extra non-engine space and being able to set up a big board of negates in game 1 and then easily being able to play through side deck hate people have for me in games 2 and 3.
Even though I didn't get my invite, I'm happy with how the deck did today. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to see more Virtual World content. Thank you.